let's take you through a quick GMAT insight rapid fire to understand your GMAT journey. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's your first question. If you were to write a book about your GMAT journey, what would be the title of the book?
Title of the book. So in my first attempt, I would say when I initially when I received my score, I was pretty overwhelmed and frustrated as to how this happened, what happened. So the major hurdle that I felt that I encountered in quant this year were two things, which were first of all my time management, and secondly something which I'll call the demotivation syndrome, as you just mentioned. And in my final exam, I'm happy to report that I finished my quant section with 4 minutes remaining on the exam.
Wow. Uh-huh.
That time management strategy really helped me.
So, hi Piyush, welcome today to our video debriefing session and a warm welcome to all our viewers here. Today we have Piyush, who improved by a massive 110 points to score a 720 on his GMAT. Not only that, he improved by a massive 12 points in verbal and went from a V27 to a V39. So, thank you, Piyush, for taking the time out today. Now, before we get into your journey, can you tell our viewers about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Rashmi, for that lovely introduction. It is great to be here with e-GMAT and here for the testimonial. So, hey guys, I'm Piyush. I'm currently 22 years old. I come from an engineering background and I've just completed my BTech in engineering. And yeah, GMAT was on the charts for me for a very long time since I want to pursue something in management further. So, as we all know, any GMAT aspirant would know that GMAT indeed itself is a very big metric of deciding where you would go forward in your management career. And yeah, as Rashmi said, I did get so my first attempt I scored a 610, in which the breaker was mostly I think Q47, B27, IR8, and AWA6. So while I scored pretty well on the unmarked sections, it was the marked sections, especially verbal, in which I faltered a lot. And this year in my second attempt, I scored a 720, which was a Q49, V39, and an IR8, AWA6. So yeah, that was my breaker for the second attempt.
Awesome, Piyush. So that improvement is really, really tremendous. 100 point overall improvement and a 12-point improvement in verbal is massive. So tell us what were the biggest obstacles on the way to getting a good GMAT score for you?
Yeah. So in my first attempt, I would say when I received my score, I was pretty overwhelmed and frustrated as to how this happened, what happened. So while I did not spend much time initially after just the exam to analyze, when I finally got to analyzing my performance, I realized that there were three key mistakes that I had made. First of all, I had no clarity regarding verbal. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
so as we all know that the verbal is divided into three sections, it's SC, CR, and RC. While I performed pretty well in CR and RC, in sentence correction, mainly I felt that even though I knew the rules, I had no clarity regarding the application of rules and I
Mm-hmm.
faulted a lot in my SC section, leading to a very low verbal score.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, last year when I gave my first attempt, I had a lot on my plate due to ongoing college, as well as I think just a week before the exam, I got diagnosed with dengue fever, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of played against my health and my focus in the exam.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest any aspirant to just keep their charts fully empty for this exam because if you
Mm-hmm.
try to pile up too much on your plate, it might just work against you. And third, I felt that I had no clarity on how to perform under pressure. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that is not only about concepts, it's also about how you perform in the time frame. You get around 1 hour and 2 minutes for your quant and 1 hour and 5 minutes for your verbal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Number of questions are immense in both the sections. So yeah, I think time management and how you perform under pressure would be a key part of your preparation as well.
Got it, got it. I think you have a term for that, right? You mentioned demo
Yeah,
demotivation syndrome or something. So what's this, and could you explain it a bit more?
prep this year, the main hurdles that I felt in. So I'll cover this in both the quant and verbal aspects. As
Mm-hmm.
you just mentioned, I'll talk about quant first. So the major hurdle that I felt that I encountered in quant this year were two things, which were first of all my time management, and secondly something which I'll call the demotivation syndrome, as you just mentioned. So it was like initially I felt that in quant, why I'm getting the questions wrong is because I don't have concept clarity. But I
Mm-hmm.
realized later on in my prep that I am pretty sufficient with my knowledge of different concepts. I have my notes fully revised. I come from an engineering background, so people from this background would know that we inherently have a knack for maths because we've already
Mm-hmm.
given that in competitive exams. However, so demotivation syndrome for me was that I'm when I'm solving my questions in a timed manner, in a mock test manner. When I first encounter a roadblock, I sort of just let it get to my head, and it
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously hampers all my remaining questions. It's
Got
like
it.
when I perform bad in one question, I kind of send signals to my mind
Mm-hmm.
that I am
Mm-hmm.
going to perform bad in the
Mm-hmm.
coming questions as well, and that sort of hampers my entire performance in the upcoming questions.
Got
So
it.
it took me some time to realize this. It took me some time to push myself up, motivate me regularly that if you've gotten one question wrong, that doesn't mean that you have to kind of
Yeah.
tank your other questions. So yeah, that was something that I really worked on. And secondly, it was time management. So
Mm-hmm.
for quant, GMAT offers 31 questions in a frame of 62 minutes, which is roughly 2 minutes per question. And while 2 minutes will be sufficient for the majority of the questions, it will be questions in which 2 minutes will not be sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
That was something in which I really faltered with. And yeah, that is something that I overcame with practice.
Got it, got it. So tell us, how did you overcome these hurdles? One being the ability in verbal, especially SE, two being, just managing your time better in terms of your prep, and three being the issues that you pointed out in verbal. So if you could take us through how you did that and how the platform of e-GMAT really helped you achieve those things, that would be great.
Right, sure. So again, I'll just sort of divide my answer into quant and
Mm-hmm,
verbal and how e-GMAT helped me. So if I talk about quant first, as I've just mentioned, so initially the hurdles, what I did for the hurdles was I think I made a mistake in believing that it was the concept clarity with which I'm
mm-hmm,
faltering. But it was only later on that I realized that it was time management issues.
mm-hmm,
So for time management, what I did was that in the original e-GMAT exam, in the original GMAT exam, what we usually get is a backward timer of the time that
mm-hmm,
we have left. So what I started doing was for every question, I just started noting down on my notepad the time before solving the question, and knowing in my mind that I only have 2 minutes to solve that
mm-hmm,
question. So after solving, when I look at the timer and I feel that I've taken more than 2 minutes, it kind of subconsciously trains me so that
mm-hmm,
don't keep on repeating that time mistake, and I try to save my time in future questions. So I
mm-hmm,
think that strategy for me really helped,
mm-hmm,
that I was able to take my time. And while initially in mocks I kind of suffered with time as to not having time sufficient time left for the last five questions. I
mm-hmm.
remember that the first mock that I gave after preparation, I just sort of skipped to the last five questions
Mm-hmm.
because I had no time left.
Yeah.
And any aspirant would know that GMAT does take this very seriously, and there's a very serious
Mm-hmm.
on you if you
Correct.
leave questions
Mm-hmm.
unchecked. So yeah, and in my final exam, I'm happy to report that I finished my quant section with 4 minutes remaining on the exam.
Wow. Uh-huh.
That time management strategy really helped me. And as
Mm-hmm.
motivation syndrome, I think it's more about your personal motivation of constantly telling yourself that you do know the concepts.
Mm-hmm.
You, you do have it in you to solve the remaining questions. If there's one question and you feel like 2.5 minutes have already elapsed, I think it is better to just let go that question, focus on the other questions, and because the questions will present themselves in a way that some will be tough and some will be easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you can tell yourself that the tough questions will be over soon and you can go focus on the other questions, I think the students will do pretty fine.
Got it. Got it. Yes. So essentially, what really helped is the data analytics, which helped you zero in on what are the issues and really work on those so that you are able to, sort them out. So what about verbal? Verbal, I know that SE was the biggest issue. And how did you go from having SE as your weakness to one of the strengths?
Before I just touch upon verbal, I would just like to add that how e-GMAT mainly stepped in for me was definitely one of the data analytics section was where I felt that it was very beneficial to me because
Mm-hmm.
time taken per question, whether it was more than the threshold time, less than the threshold time, whether there was any luck factor involved, I think
Mm-hmm.
the AI
Mm-hmm.
game of e-GMAT played really well in that.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I think the vast array of questions with respect to the Scholarium and OG dashboard, I think that also helped me a lot with my concept practice.
Got it.
So yeah.
Got it.
Now coming to verbal. So
Mm-hmm.
as I said that verbal has three sections and I never actually faltered in my RC section anyways. I think RC was always a strong suit for me.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody preparing for RC, as long as they just try to dissect each and every sentence
Mm-hmm.
and understand the answer choices, the little nuances, they'll be pretty fine. Sentence correction was my Achilles heel,
Mm-hmm.
and that was something that I had faltered. So this year, what I did was that first of all, not only reading the rules, I also started understanding how these rules play out.
Mm-hmm.
And EGMAT videos were always, I think they were there last year for me as well. But last year, I wasn't able to fully interpret the essence of
Mm-hmm.
these videos.
Mm-hmm.
I just focused a lot on grasping the little concepts. I even made a document for myself to just keep all the rules in one place. And yeah, and it's like I have this analogy. I was discussing it with my friends as well. So someone from an engineering background would be able to relate to it. It's like I feel that sentence correction is like inorganic chemistry. There are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
rules, a lot of exceptions as well. So as long as you can understand why these rules exist, how they come to play out, and what are the exceptions and why these exceptions exist, I think they'll be pretty much solid in their sentence correction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Talk about CR approach. I think CR was one section which was pretty new to me because we have to use our critical reasoning and we really
Mm-hmm.
have to. It's like we're shooting in the blind with CR questions,
Mm-hmm.
especially assumption questions.
Yeah.
So yeah, and in that I feel that the e-GMAT pre-thinking approach helped me a lot. And it's
Mm-hmm.
with the pre-thinking approach, be it any type of CR question, assumption, weaken, strengthen, or
Mm-hmm.
bold face, I feel that it gives you some framework to think out of the box. It gives
Mm-hmm.
you a framework to just analyze the situation at hand and try to predict the different assumptions that could arise. And it's like before that last year, what I was doing with my assumptions was I was just randomly thinking ideas that came to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
This year, what improved was that it was not just random ideas, it was taking the information already presented and building on that. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that helped me approach the right assumptions a lot better.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. So I think you've encapsulated it beautifully. There were three major hurdles you were able to, strategically
Yeah,
uh, address each of them following a real structured approach, right? So if you have to go back and look at your journey, and what are the things that maybe you should have avoided, and the things that really helped you finally get to the score. So what are the things that worked for you, what are the things that didn't, and you have to course correct.
cool. So I'll first talk about the things that worked for me. So I think apart from my prep, there were three, four things that really played a crucial role for me.
Mm-hmm.
Has been the error log maintenance. I think the
Mm-hmm.
e-GMAT team always emphasizes on why it is important to maintain an
Mm-hmm.
error log,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel that this year I understood the importance of an error log more. So I
Mm-hmm.
think having an error log really helps. And before an important crucial test, maybe before giving a mock or maybe before giving a proper dashboard test, I think if someone just visits their error log for the last 10, 15 questions, understands. And I think why error log helps people the most is because they will be able to identify if they have a recurring mistake. So
Mm-hmm.
like if they have a recurring pattern, then that is a red flag for their preparation. And the error log helps you to rectify it. I
Mm-hmm.
think that is one area that helped me a lot. Apart from that, I think to any aspirant, I would always emphasize the importance of OG. I never
Mm-hmm.
had the importance of OG in my prep last year. I just felt that it was just a book. But
Mm-hmm.
now in my preparation this year, I really focused on OG. GMAT, e-GMAT has this entire OG dashboard. I did a lot of OG questions, and I also attempted the two official mocks that we get with
Mm-hmm.
our GMAT
Mm-hmm.
application booking. So yeah, I felt that OG really plays an important role. The level of questions and the type of questions that you get on the original exam will be very, very similar. And you should definitely not neglect that aspect of it. So doing OG is something that I'm really glad of.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Got it.
Yeah, and yeah, lastly, I feel like one major thing that helped me a lot was adjusting to the exam scenario. I
Mm-hmm.
feel so basically a week before my exam was in the early morning slot, and I am not someone who wakes up early morning. So adjusting my body clock and just letting my mind know that it has to stay
Mm-hmm.
active during that time. I
Mm-hmm.
gave around four mocks in that particular time frame only before my exam, and I
Mm-hmm.
think really helped because not only did my concentration improve, but my focus and application of my mind during that time also improved a lot. So to any aspirant, I would also say that your preparation is fine, your error logs are fine, but also just notice the time of your appointment and
Mm-hmm.
sit during that time. Try to focus your mind during that time because on the D-day itself, it will feel like just a repetition of what you were already doing.
Got it, got it. Wonderful. I think yes, you put in your effort to build your ability, then have the right kind of test taking practices to really, hit it on the mark on the day of the test. So thank you, Piyush. This was a wonderful insight into your journey, and I'm sure a lot of GMAT aspirants out there will take a page out of your journey, and that'll make their GMAT journey all the more richer. Let's quickly, have a small little fun element. Let's take you through a quick GMAT insight, rapid fire to understand your GMAT journey.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's your first question. If you were to write a book about your GMAT journey, what would be the title of the book?
Title of the book, How to Not Read Sentences, Forget Everything You Know About Reading Sentences. That
Oh,
would be the title.
wow. That's awesome. That's a long title, though. But yes, awesome. So the second one is, if you could have one GMAT superpower, what would it be and how would you use it?
One GMAT superpower would definitely be for sentence correction to have less of rules and less of exceptions, and maybe
Mhm.
in CR questions to have a sort of a defined scope. It's like in CR questions, some questions are out of scope, and the same questions will be considered in scope in some scenarios. So yeah, to have a defined scope for CR questions would be a superpower.
Awesome. So describe GMAT in 3 words.
Three words. I would say tricky, time intensive, and calculating.
Awesome. You're pretty quick. This rapid fire is going all rapid. Okay, now, so if you had to pick a song that sort of encapsulates your entire GMAT journey, what would that be?
Song. I don't think so. There's only one particular song that I would pick. I usually like listening to EDM beats, so
Hmm.
probably a EDM beat or a funk beat. I usually that I find very upbeat. When I just see my whole journey, I would just sort of relate it to one of those beats. I think so.
So it was an upbeat journey.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So the last one. Do you remember any funny anecdote from your GMAT journey?
fun anecdote. I think one that comes to mind is that when I went for my second attempt, usually I think in my first attempt I was pretty nervous and my head was all over the place. I did not pay attention to much details. In my second attempt, when I went to the center, I was pretty calm and I was in a fun element that day
Hmm.
only. I was
Hmm.
maybe confident about my prep. So I think the instructor person there who sort of gives the instructions before the exam and sort of checks out, does all the system checks. They were telling me all the instructions on what I can do and what I cannot do in the exam, and I just started smiling and I said that I already know all these things. So it was a fun element. Even the instructor started smiling, and then I told them that I had already gone through this entire ordeal
Hmm.
before. And I think that just sort of set the mood, made me more
Hmm.
calm, and it helped me. So I think that was the first thing that I remembered when you said fun.
Yeah, I think a smile and a laugh goes a long way in just relaxing the mood and setting the tone for the test, right? And I also want to wish you all the best for the upcoming application journey, and I'm sure you'll get to the dream school of your choice. So thank you so much. And our viewers here, if you like the video, if anything that Piyush said resonates with you, please like, subscribe, and also share your what part of Piyush's journey really resonated with you in the comment section. And looking forward to your comments. Thank you, Piyush,
So
and
thank
all
you.
the best again.